always appreciate when a film recreates a world that really does exist, but that I will never be a part of. And that's the case of today's film. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy, and that's my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today we enter the world of LA's Skid Row and spend a few days in the life of a person who is probably that area's most famous resident. Let's check it out. Today's film is Barfly from 1987, 1 hour, 40 minutes long, in color. This is based on the life of Charles Bukowski, who was a poet and a novelist. And he was a writer based on LA's Skid Row. If you're not familiar with that, just think of one of the grungiest places in the city where you live, and you get the idea of what Skid Row is. This is a person who lives on the outskirts of society. His life mainly consists of getting drunk at a bar, getting into fights, finding women here and there, and trying to avoid work as much as possible, and living in pretty grungy looking hotel rooms and apartments. Mickey Rourke plays the main character based on Charles Bukowski. He's named Henry in the film. And Mickey Rourke from films such as Angel Heart, Rumblefish, Diner, and The Wrestler, which he was nominated for an Oscar for, and that was in 2008. I don't think he's really done anything of that caliber since then. In this film, he's generally convincing. I think it's kind of hard to play somebody who's still alive, because Bukowski was still alive when this was made. But he's pretty convincing. He, especially the way he moves, his physicality is very interesting. His vocal cadences and affectations, I thought at first were a little bit much, but then one of the extras I'll talk about later, you see Bukowski speaking, and you hear him speaking, and Mickey Rourke nailed it pretty good. I think one problem is Mickey Rourke might be a little too good looking to play Bukowski, because Bukowski was suffered from really terrible acne when he was young, and his face was just ravaged by it. He's not a good-looking guy, and I think Mickey Rourke might be a little too physically fit for the role. But overall, I think he's very good in the role. He's really fun to watch. Sean Penn was originally slated or interested to play this role. I think it's a good thing that Mickey Rourke got the role instead. Faye Dunaway plays what you might call his love interest, kind of, named Wanda. And Faye Dunaway in so many great films, one of my top 10 favorites, Chinatown, Network, Bonnie and Clyde. And I wondered about this film because these people are living this strange, offbeat lifestyle, how she's going to deal with the makeup, because the stories about Chinatown were that she was so fastidious with her makeup, constantly getting it applied and reapplied, that just pissed everybody off. And sure enough, she brought 2 makeup artists on the set of Barfly, and she came on the set, and immediately the director said, no makeup. She had to take all her makeup off. So she doesn't look glamorous in this film at all. And she does a good job in this film too. As far as these two main characters, you really don't get much of a backstory to them, which is okay. This is just how they are. You get a little hint here and there. At one point, the Mickey Rourke character says that he's never felt love or feel like he's been loved by anybody. And then at another point, the Faye Dunaway character gets very upset and angry, and she says, "Just nothing works for me in this world. Nothing ever works." So you get a little bit of a hint of their frustrations and why they are the way they are, and their motivations. You also wonder, or at least I wondered, how do they survive? I mean, they do get jobs now and then, only when they need to as a last resort, and because the job would be a death sentence, especially to the Mickey Rourke character. And Faye Dunaway's character does hook up with an older guy who I'm sure, gets some sexual favors from her and pays her off. Frank Stallone is in this. He plays Eddie the bartender, who is the adversary of Mickey Rourke's character. They're always getting in fights, and the fights are pretty good, actually. And it even starts almost the first 5 minutes, basically, the two of them fighting in an alleyway outside the bar. Alice Krige plays this character named Tully, and she is a publisher, and she receives some of Henry's Henry's work, his writings, his stories and poems, basically. And she wants to publish him. And she is she's British, and she's very pretty, and she's just infatuated and falls in love with this Mickey Rourke character. And to me, this is the biggest misstep in the film. I think her performance is ridiculous. I think the whole idea is ridiculous, that she's infatuated with this bum, basically. And she has a very nice lifestyle, very nice house. She takes him to her house, and you can tell that this is not his thing. To him, he says, "You live in a prison with gold bars on the cage." And she looks at him and she just says, "You don't approve of my world, do you?" So it's pretty corny and it's pretty unbelievable. Even though reading up on Charles Bukowski a little bit, it is based somewhat on fact that a publisher did hook up with him. I think they lived together for a while as well. But for me, that was the weakest point of the film, really. The director was Barbet Schroeder. He, I know him best from Reversal of Fortune, the film about Klaus von Bülow. And the cinematographer was Robbie Mueller. He's done a lot of things, including Dead Man and The American Friend. And the look of this film is a lot of neon. Think of neon colors, and think Edward Hopper-ish type of colors and scenes. And it's a very good looking film, very good looking. And then Bukowski himself wrote the screenplay. I'm kind of dubious about that, but I think he probably had a lot of help, because I don't think he ever wrote a screenplay before. And you do see him at one point sitting at the bar and having a drink. Apparently they called him up, asked him to write a screenplay for Barfly. He said, "I'm not interested." I hung up the phone, called back a couple more times and said, "Well, there's $20,000 in it for you." Now he was interested. So that's the story behind him getting involved with the screenplay. He showed up on set like once or twice. The strong point about this film is this is really a peek into this lifestyle of these people, not just the main characters, but also the supporting characters as well. And almost like you're a fly on the wall. And the really strong point are the people in the bar. And apparently these were real people that used to hang out in this bar that Charles Bukowski would visit on a regular basis, because their faces are just so interesting. They've had hard lives, and some of their dialogue, they don't all have speaking parts, but the ones that do, their dialogue is pretty funny and pretty pointed. That's pretty good. And so they get a real feeling that these people are real and they're living these lives. So it's very effective in that sense. Now, as I was watching this film, I was thinking, how am I supposed to respond to these two main characters? Am I supposed to laugh at them? Do I pity them, feel sorry for them? Do I envy them? I mean, they are self-aware people. They know what they're doing. It's not like it's by accident or they're clueless or anything. They know what they're up to. They're very impulsive. And am I supposed to condemn them? I don't know. Maybe I'm just supposed to take them as they are. That's probably the best way. The character, the Mickey Rourke character, he's sometimes pretty funny and sometimes surprising. He quotes Tolstoy at one point. And then there are a couple of moments where he says something that is supposed to be a little too profound, where people respond to him with this sense of awe or something. I thought, that's pushing it a little bit too much. He can say some very interesting things. You know, I'm not that familiar with Bukowski. I've read a little bit of him here and there. It's been a while. I'm not a real big poetry fan, even though I was an English teacher and an English major. Poetry was never my jam, so to speak. But I like I like the fact that he's around. He's a real interesting person, aside from just the writing, just the whole lifestyle, the way he lived his life. And there's that whole idea in this film of rich and poor. Who are really the prisoners? Is the publisher in her beautiful house, is she the prisoner because she has to keep that house going? She has to keep working? Or is Mickey Rourke's character more free? He just does whatever he needs. He works when he wants to, comes and goes. Nobody tells him what to do. He acts on impulse. So there's that theme running through part of the film as well. And he says that, Bukowski says working 9 to 5, having a house, having kids, mowing the lawn, to him, that's just a death sentence. That is the worst possible thing he could do, and he could never even do it, really. So the bottom line is, when it comes to Barfly, and I think this is really important, when it was over, I was really sad it was over. It's not that long a film, hour 40 minutes. But it's like, wow, it's over already? I could have easily gone another half hour or more. I wanted to be more involved in their lives, see where they were headed, see what they're going to do next. I just really enjoyed that part of it, because it does such a good job of creating this world that you can almost feel it. You almost feel how grungy it is. So for the fact that I really wanted it to keep on going, which doesn't happen that often in films if you think about it, I'm going to give this a rating of 4 beers out of 5. Now, what's on this disc? Well, there's quite a bit going on here. This is actually a kind of a box set. It's from Imprint. And so this is the box, and you open it up here, and you have 2 discs in here. So let me talk about the film itself. Barfly. And this has 2 audio commentary tracks, which I did not listen to. Interestingly, though, one of the tracks is by a couple that conduct a company called Esoteric Tours, based in Los Angeles. And we went on one of their tours. It was a film noir themed tour where they take you around to different locations where these famous films were shot, like Mildred Pierce's house, and different streets and cafes and restaurants and things like that. And while you're on the bus, while they're going to the next location, they have little screens that pop down and show you clips from the film noirs that you are going to visit next. So, but I didn't listen to the commentary, but they're one of the commentaries by that couple. There are a few features on here that run, I'd say, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, give or take. There's an interview with Alice Krige, who played the publisher character. There's an interview with Frank Stallone, who kind of complains a lot about how he can't get any work. And there is an interview with the production designer and one with the editor. And then you have a vintage featurette, kind of behind the scenes, poor quality. Barfly itself, the quality's good to very good. It kind of varies a little bit, and the audio is fine. Then you have, I think that's all that's on this disc. Then you have a second disc, which was made in 1985, so 2 years earlier, and that's called the Charles Bukowski Tapes. And this is the director hanging out with Charles Bukowski. So he hung out with him for at least 2 years, I think even more. And he really wanted to get this film done and interviewed him. But I wouldn't call these interviews, because they're more like vignettes. They can range from anywhere from 30 seconds to, say, 3 minutes of Charles Bukowski talking, constantly drinking, constantly smoking. His eyes are barely open in this thing. He's a real interesting character. And you hear the director off camera once in a while piping in, but I wouldn't call them interviews. It's more like him talking about his view of life, his perspective on things. And he says that he's basically on a suicide ride by smoking and drinking so much, and how he lives his life. That's basically what he's doing. He's killing himself, is what he says. There's one section where he goes to his childhood home and shows where his father used to beat him regularly. They drive down Hollywood Boulevard, and he's in the backseat of this convertible, and he's pointing out different places along Hollywood Boulevard where he used to hang out, and different people he knows, and that's kind of fun. So this is a 4-hour disc. I watched 2 hours of it. I think that might have been enough, but maybe I'll go back to the other 2 hours at some point. So that's the Charles Bukowski Tapes. So where can you see Barfly? Well, if you want to buy this box set, I think it's still available. I think this is still available. It's not cheap. You can buy just Barfly by itself, but even that one's around $30 or so. you can try your local library. I don't see it streaming anywhere. I don't see it even on, it's not on YouTube. I don't see it on Amazon, anything like that, streaming that is. So I would try your local library, or maybe it'll show up at some point. Here's a good quote in the back that kind of sums up his philosophy. Some people never go crazy. What truly horrible lives they must lead. That kind of sums up pretty good one of his main philosophies in life. So, Barfly. Thanks for watching this video. Feel free to leave a comment or suggestion down below here. Leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Share this with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.